I'm Steve Seltz for World at Work TV, and today we're talking with Nick Vollrath from Siemens Corporation, Christina Hall from LinkedIn, and Cathy Peffen from Marriott Vacations Worldwide. Topic is careers and compensation. How do you get into compensation, and how do you advance in compensation? We're going to share some trade secrets with you. Let me direct this to you, Cathy. When you think of the most successful compensation person or people you know, what are some of the attributes that stick out? What is it that makes them truly successful in this profession?
I think it's really twofold. The first is, and we've been reinforcing it lately, is the business acumen. You have to understand the business. And secondly, I think you really need the courage, and courage in many different ways. The first is to admit what you don't know, and it's okay, and then go figure out how you can find the answer. I think it's also important to be able to push the status quo and really get people to understand why you want to go in a different direction than what they're going. And the third piece of courage is that it's okay to let your leadership know that you're challenging them to solve a business problem that maybe does not have a compensation, answer to it.
Anything to add, Christina?
Well, I would definitely support courage, because I think part of the courage is also maybe that strong stomach that a comp person has to have. Whatever sort of comes your way from executives or from leaders, especially in Silicon Valley, as LinkedIn is, you also have to deal with how the stock price is fluctuating. And you really have to put in place, comp philosophies and structures, I think anywhere you are, that can stand sort of the test of time, the volatility of the market. And you've really got to have the courage and the fortitude to stick with it.
I would say that you also have to be adaptable and flexible and creative. You want to be seen as a solutions provider. We all work within various frameworks, rules, regulations, what have you, and you need to figure out a way within that framework to solve the challenges that your business faces.
When we talk about effectiveness in human resources, certainly in compensation, one of the phrases that you hear a lot of is getting close to the business. Is there anything any of you can share with us and share with the audience here about what does that mean to you, and how do you get close to the business? Christina.
You can definitely bring any of your past experiences. You should be thinking about those when you're talking to your leaders, so that anywhere that you've worked in the past, or if you've had rotations anywhere, that's super helpful to sort of apply those experiences to the compensation question at hand.
One of the things that's worked well for me in my career, and then what I now require actually of my team, is that when they join the team, they have a rotation that I put them on. If they're supporting sales compensation, they have to go take sales school. If they're supporting the general population or the other disciplines in the business, then at least one day a month I release them to go spend time, and they need to go sit with finance, they need to sit with IT, they need to sit with our revenue management, our asset management, our operations team, and really understand what drives that part of the business. And then, if they are a profit center, what drives the revenue growth and how they get there. And if they're an enabling function, what do we need to do to make sure that they continue to, because an enabling function is quite a bit of your spend is compensation. So what can we do to better help them support their business and their strategy?
Yeah, I would echo all of that, and I would say you need to get out there. You need to go and visit your site locations, talk to managers, understand about their business, what are their priorities, what are the issues that they're facing, and really get to understand their business, their terms, their language, because the more that you can then be able to speak to them in their own language, the more that they'll trust that you understand about their business, understand the issues that they're facing, and will pull you in to help them solve the challenges that they face.
Let's talk about networking. So each of you, no doubt, has achieved some of what you've achieved by virtue of relationships that you've established, people you know, friendships you've made, mentors that you've had. But any hints you want to share about networking and what works particularly well, and maybe some thoughts that you could share with folks who are earlier in their career?
There's lots of ways, obviously, to grow your network. I'll just talk about one specific aspect. Get involved in your local compensation associations. There's associations all across the country, and they're a great way to network, to talk about things with like-minded compensation professionals, and also try and, if you have the desire, get more involved in those associations, become involved in the executive committee or the board, and that just gives you a better opportunity to network not only within your local compensation association, but with other associations across the U.S.
One of the things I think that's important too is to maintain that face-to-face, and so being with the boards, but also when you have your network, following up with phone calls and just keeping in touch randomly with certain people. And the social media, to a degree, I like that. Join the community groups. Nearly all of the associations, whether it be World at Work or other types of social media, have community groups, and join them, not just to join them because you want your name on that list. Read what's going on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and set time aside on your calendar that said, I'm going to go see what's being posted out there, because you never know what you're going to find.
Let's talk specifically, you mentioned social media. How do you use social media, and are there some tried and tested and true methodologies for effectively using social media? Christina.
Well, coming from LinkedIn, where we really try and connect the world's professionals, I think it's a wonderful tool to sort of get your name out there and to share information regarding areas of interest with regards to your profession, or opinions or expertise, by sharing scholarly articles, by publishing slide decks. We have a functionality in LinkedIn where you can push out a deck if you want to. Or if someone shares an article about compensation, for example, you can comment on it and sort of build a greater dialogue. So that's really a nice way of using LinkedIn. I use that in conjunction with other social networks that are maybe more relaxed and more, truly social, as sort of a combination. Because of course, as you talk about sort of making these connections with people that are real, once you become friends with someone in addition to networking with them, maybe you want to be friends with them on Facebook as well as being connected to them on LinkedIn.
Nick, anything to add?
Yeah, and I would just add to that as well, making sure that you continue to nurture those networks in your relationships, because it's one thing to friend somebody or get linked with them on LinkedIn, but it's another to continue to reach out to them on a periodic basis, talk to them about what's going on, see if there's anything that you can do to help them or provide some information or advice to them on maybe some of the challenges that they're facing.
Finally, one word of wisdom, something to share with listeners and the audience about what's made you effective and how they can probably be as effective or more in the future.
I think for me, I mentioned at the beginning with courage, it's okay. You feel like you may be committing a career-limiting move, but you find out 9 times out of 10 you aren't, because somebody else in that executive room or on your team is thinking the same thing. And recognize that if you don't take the risks, whether it's expanding into an experience that you didn't have yet, or volunteering for a project team, or any of the other types of things that can continue to career, you ultimately do control your own destiny. Companies aren't going to just pull you up the ladder anymore. You have to create those experiences that makes you best positioned for that next job.
I would say to not be afraid to continue to ask questions and to probe, really try and understand what's going on, what the true issue is, because from a compensation perspective, lots of times people think it's a comp problem, when in fact it may not be a compensation problem at all, but another problem in the organization that needs to be addressed.
And Christina, you have the last word.
Well, I guess I think a lot about the things that I do, how to sort of tweak and iterate. So you do something once, it may go pretty well, but there's sort of always going to be room for improvement or correction. I think admitting mistakes is really important. But sort of, everything you do it once and you make it better the next time, and so on and so forth. So you're sort of building on experiences, not thinking, okay, I have the perfect paradigm here and it can't change.